Hey everyone, welcome back to the Iron Intellect channel. Today, we're launching a brand new audiobook series called Iron Foundations, a complete muscle building program that goes deeper than anything you've seen before. This is Chapter 1, Foundations of Muscle Building. If you've ever wondered what actually happens inside your muscles when they grow, how to maximize your gain scientifically, and why most people waste years following the wrong advice, this audiobook is for you. By the end of this series, you'll understand muscle building better than 90% of people in the gym. Let's dive in. Chapter 1, Foundations of Muscle Building. Introduction. If you're listening to this right now, you've made a decision that will change your life. You've chosen to understand muscle building at a level most people never reach. This isn't going to be a surface-level explanation with generic advice you've heard 1,000 times. This is a deep dive into the fascinating world of how your body builds muscle, why it does what it does, and how you can harness this knowledge to transform yourself completely. Let me start by telling you something important. Building muscle is one of the most rewarding pursuits you can undertake, not just for your appearance, but for your health, your confidence, your longevity, and your quality of life. When you build muscle, you're not just adding size to your frame. You're increasing your metabolic rate, which means you burn more calories even at rest. You're strengthening your bones, reducing your risk of osteoporosis as you age. You're improving your insulin sensitivity, which protects you against diabetes. You're enhancing your cardiovascular health, your balance, your coordination, and your ability to perform everyday tasks with ease. But here's the problem most people face. They start training without understanding the fundamentals. They follow random workout plans they found online, switch programs every few weeks when they don't see instant results, and wonder why their progress is slow or non-existent. They eat too much or too little. They train too hard or not hard enough. They get injured, discouraged, or are simply confused by all the conflicting information out there. This book, and this chapter specifically, is designed to solve that problem. By the time you finish this introduction, you'll understand muscle building better than 90% of people in any gym. You'll know exactly what's happening inside your body when you train. You'll understand why certain approaches work and others fail. You'll have the knowledge foundation to build a program that actually delivers results. So let's begin with the most fundamental question. What is muscle building? When we talk about muscle building, we're talking about a biological process called muscle hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is a fancy scientific word that simply means growth or increase in size. Muscle hypertrophy is your body's adaptive response to stress. When you challenge your muscles with resistance, whether that's weights, body weight exercises, resistance bands, or any other form of mechanical load, you create stress on the muscle fibers. Now, this stress might sound like a bad thing, but it's actually the trigger for growth. During resistance training, your muscle fibers experience microscopic damage. These aren't serious injuries. They're tiny tears in the protein structures that make up your muscle cells. Your body recognizes this damage and responds by initiating a repair process. But here's the brilliant part. Your body doesn't just repair the damage. It overcompensates. It rebuilds the muscle fibers slightly bigger and stronger than they were before, preparing for possibility that you'll challenge them again in the future. This is called supercompensation, and it's the fundamental principle behind all training adaptations. Your body is constantly trying to maintain balance, a state scientists call homeostasis. When you disrupt that balance by lifting weights, your body adapts to establish a new, stronger baseline. This adaptation cycle, stress, recovery, adaptation, is the engine of muscle growth. But muscle hypertrophy isn't a single, simple process. There are actually two distinct types of muscle growth happening simultaneously, and understanding both is crucial for designing effective training programs. The first type is called myofibrillar hypertrophy. This involves increasing the number and size of the myofibrils, the actual contractile proteins within your muscle fibers that generate force. When you increase myofibrillar density, you increase your muscle's ability to produce force, which translates directly to strength gains. Think of myofibrils as the engine of your muscles. A bigger, more powerful engine produces more force. Myofibrillar hypertrophy is primarily stimulated by heavy loads, lifting weights that are somewhere between 70 and 85% of your one repetition maximum, typically for lower repetition ranges of about 3 to 8 reps per set. This type of training creates high levels of mechanical tension, which is one of the primary drivers of muscle growth. The second type is sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. This involves increasing the volume of the sarcoplasm, the fluid, glycogen stores, and non-contractile proteins within the muscle cell. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy doesn't increase strength as much as myofibrillar hypertrophy does, but it contributes significantly to muscle size and endurance capacity. When bodybuilders talk about the pump, that full, tight feeling in their muscles during and after a workout, they're experiencing temporary sarcoplasmic expansion. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is typically stimulated by moderate loads with higher repetition ranges, usually 8 to 15 reps or more per set, with shorter rest periods between sets. This type of training creates metabolic stress, another key driver of muscle growth that we'll explore in detail shortly. Now, here's what you need to understand. Both types of hypertrophy matter. A well-designed muscle-building program stimulates both myofibrillar and sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. You want muscles that are not only big, but also strong and functional. This is why the most effective programs include a variety of rep ranges, exercises, and training intensities. To truly maximize muscle growth, you need to understand and apply the 3 primary mechanisms that trigger hypertrophy. These are the biological signals your body responds to. Think of them as 3 different languages your muscles speak. To communicate effectively and tell your muscles to grow, you need to speak all 3 languages. The first mechanism is mechanical tension. This is the force your muscles generate when they contract against resistance. When you lift a heavy weight, your muscle fibers are recruited and activated to produce force. The greater the mechanical tension, the stronger the growth signal. Mechanical tension is created most effectively by lifting heavy weights, typically 70% of your 1 rep max or higher, through a full range of motion with controlled, deliberate movements. Here's an example to make this concrete. Imagine you're performing a bicep curl with a dumbbell. As you lift the weight from the bottom position to the top, your bicep muscle fibers are contracting and generating tension to overcome the resistance of the weight. The heavier the dumbbell, the more tension your muscles must produce, and the stronger the signal for growth. This is why progressive overload, gradually increasing the weight, reps, or volume over time, is so critical for continued muscle growth. The second mechanism is muscle damage. During intense exercise, especially exercises that emphasize the eccentric or lengthening phase of a movement, microscopic damage occurs to the muscle fibers. This damage triggers an inflammatory response, bringing immune cells and growth factors to the damaged area to begin the repair process. During this repair, satellite cells, a type of stem cell located around muscle fibers, are activated. These satellite cells donate their nuclei to the muscle fibers, allowing them to grow larger. It's important to understand that muscle damage alone isn't the goal. Some people mistakenly think that more soreness equals more growth, but that's not accurate. Excessive muscle damage can actually hinder recovery and slow progress. The goal is controlled, moderate muscle damage that stimulates adaptation without impairing your ability to train effectively in subsequent sessions. The third mechanism is metabolic stress. This refers to the accumulation of metabolic byproducts, such as lactate, hydrogen ions, and inorganic phosphate, during exercise. When you perform high repetition sets with short rest periods, these metabolites build up in your muscles, creating that burning sensation and the feeling of muscles being pumped full of blood. This metabolic environment triggers several growth-promoting responses. The cell swelling from fluid accumulation can activate pathways that promote protein synthesis. The metabolic stress also increases the production of anabolic hormones locally within the muscle tissue and systemically throughout your body. Additionally, metabolic stress may preferentially recruit and fatigue fast-twitch muscle fibers, which have the greatest potential for growth. Understanding these 3 mechanisms allows you to design your training intelligently. A comprehensive program includes heavy strength work for mechanical tension, exercises with eccentric emphasis for muscle damage, and higher rep work with shorter rests for metabolic stress. But training is only one part of the equation. Without proper nutrition, muscle growth simply cannot occur. Your muscles are made primarily of protein, Specifically, they're made of chains of amino acids arranged in complex structures. When you train and create those microscopic tears we discussed, your body needs raw materials to repair and build new muscle tissue. Those raw materials come from the protein you eat. Research has consistently shown that to maximize muscle protein synthesis, the process of building new muscle, you need to consume approximately 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. For someone weighing 70 kilograms, that's roughly 112 to 154 grams of protein daily. This protein should come from high-quality sources that contain all the essential amino acids your body cannot produce on its own. But protein alone isn't enough. You also need energy, calories, to fuel the muscle-building process. Building new tissue is an energy-expensive process. To maximize muscle growth, you generally need to be in a slight caloric surplus, meaning you're consuming slightly more calories than you're burning. This surplus provides the energy needed for protein synthesis and recovery. However, and this is crucial, the surplus should be modest. Eating excessive calories doesn't lead to proportionally more muscle growth. Instead, excess calories beyond what your body can use for muscle building will be stored as fat. A surplus of about 200 to 500 calories per day above your maintenance level is typically sufficient for muscle growth while minimizing fat gain. Beyond protein and total calories, carbohydrates and fats also play important roles. Carbohydrates replenish glycogen stores in your muscles, providing energy for your workouts and supporting recovery. Dietary fats are essential for hormone production, including testosterone and growth hormone, both of which influence muscle growth. A balanced diet that includes adequate protein, carbohydrates, and healthy fats, along with plenty of fruits and vegetables for vitamins, minerals, and fiber, creates the optimal nutritional environment for muscle growth. Now, let me address the training variables that determine whether your workouts produce results or just leave you tired and sore. Volume refers to the total amount of work you perform. It's typically calculated as sets multiplied by reps multiplied by weight. For example, if you perform 3 sets of 10 reps with 50 kilograms, your volume for that exercise is 1,500 kilograms. Research suggests that there's a dose-response relationship between volume and muscle growth. Up to a point, more volume generally produces more growth, but only until you reach your maximum recoverable volume. Beyond that point, additional volume leads to overtraining, fatigue, and diminished returns. Frequency refers to how often you train each muscle group per week. Current evidence suggests that training each muscle group 2 to 3 times per week produces better results than training it just once per week, assuming you're managing total volume appropriately. This is because muscle protein synthesis, the muscle building process, is elevated for approximately 24 to 48 hours after a training session. By training more frequently, you're taking advantage of these elevated periods more often. Intensity refers to how heavy the load is relative to your maximum strength or how close to failure you're training. Both are important. Training with heavier loads, 70 to 85% of your 1-rep max, creates greater mechanical tension. Training closer to muscular failure ensures you're recruiting and fatiguing the maximum number of muscle fibers, including the high-threshold motor units that control fast-twitch fibers with the greatest growth potential. All of these variables must be balanced carefully. Too much volume, frequency, or intensity leads to overtraining. Too little leads to suboptimal growth. The art and science of programming is finding the sweet spot for your individual recovery capacity, which is influenced by factors like age, training experience, sleep quality, stress levels, and nutrition. This foundation, understanding what muscle hypertrophy is, the mechanisms that drive it, the nutritional requirements, and the training variables, is what separates people who make consistent progress from those who spin their wheels for years without significant results. You now have a comprehensive understanding of the biological and practical foundations of muscle building. This knowledge will guide every decision you make moving forward. And that's the foundation you need to build muscle effectively. You now understand what muscle hypertrophy is, the 3 biological triggers of growth, and why nutrition and training variables matter so much. This knowledge separates people who make real progress from those who stay stuck. In the next chapter of this Iron Foundations audiobook, we'll design your actual training program using these principles. If you found this valuable, Hit that like button, subscribe for the complete audiobook series, and drop a comment telling me what clicked for you today. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in Chapter 2. Stay strong.